Hello all. So hope you guys are all well and safe. The final few days of lockdown 2.0 in the UK. And tonight, Middlesex University Product Design Engineering and Design Engineering are really excited to host the 7th talk in our annual guest lecture series, which runs weekly throughout the academic year on a Thursday evening, bringing together a vibrant mix of speakers from across this full spectrum of design and design engineering. Tonight, we're really excited to host Laura Lerkkanen, joining us from Helsinki, Finland, a senior service designer and strategic designer from a Finnish-based service design agency, Hellon. Laura's background is in industrial design. She has a master's degree from Aalto University's International Design Management program as well. And not only does Laura work for an award-winning Finnish-based service design agency, but she's also an award-winning designer and strategic designer as well. Her work and projects have been awarded several times, both in Finland and internationally. She's worked extensively with several well-known and acknowledged brands like Volkswagen, PepsiCo, Musgrave, and Nordic Innovation. And yeah, Laura's ambition is to encourage organizations to prioritize a genuine co-creation and transparency. So all of you guys have received the details of the talk and the details of the speaker to your emails ahead of the talk, including links to connect on social media platforms such as LinkedIn, Instagram, alongside the Hellon website as well, to get a feel of the nature of the company, the clients, and the type of work that they do as well. So definitely feel free to connect with Laura online. And without any further ado, Laura, Senior Service and Strategic Designer from Hellon, with a talk titled The Shift from Products-Oriented Design Towards Service Design and Systems Thinking. All yours, Laura.
Great. Thank you, Ahmed, and thank you for the introduction. And thank you for the audience of having me and Middlesex University of having me today for this speak. So as Ahmed introduced briefly, I'm going to talk today to you about the shift from product-oriented design towards service design and strategic design. And I'm going to illustrate this through my own expertise and professional growth throughout the years, and also through some case examples I have been working with throughout the years, working at Hellon. So first, I would like to tell a little bit about my background more. So as introduced briefly, I'm a senior service designer from working at Hellon currently. I'm Finnish-based, and my original background comes from industrial design. So I completed my bachelor degree of industrial design in Metropolia University of Applied Sciences. I also studied 6 months in Japan, in Tokyo, in Joseph University of Art and Design, and completed product design studies there. And what I learned through the industrial design studies is the approach of design thinking, focusing on designing for people, focusing on aesthetics, ergonomics, materials, and technology. So quite nice basis for the future design work I've been doing so far. After that, I completed master's studies at Aalto University, which is the main design university in Helsinki and in Finland. And I completed my master's degree in the International Design Management program. And the studies there, they focused more on this holistic service design. So how to create customer experiences, how to design not only for people, but engaging people to the design process itself. And throughout the years working at Hellon, I have been working here as a senior service designer for 5 years so far. Kind of my expertise has shifted towards to this more strategic design, which for us refers to this how to align the design activities that we do with the strategic business targets of companies that they're working with, and kind of bringing the design not only as external function or just minor function of the organization, but as a part of the DNA, what organizations do. I'm also a lecturer at the Aalto University myself, and I lecture at the service design course a couple times a year, where I train people from different background and coming from different industries, the service design thinking and service design tools that they can apply to their own projects and own industries that they work at. So today I would like to cover the topic through three main topics. So first I'm going to introduce briefly Hellon, the agency I'm working at, and kind of why we are aiming for achieving the business of the client organizations through this design approach and human-centered approach. Second, I'm going to talk about the change in the value creation, why this new holistic customer-centric approaches that focus on customer experience matter in today's business and throughout multiple industries. And then lastly, I'm going to introduce three case examples which kind of illustrate my expertise in more concrete, how we kind of approach these service development projects and how we apply these more novel systems thinking and strategic design skills to the projects that we do. We have some time for the Q&A at the end of the discussion, but of course, if you have questions, please send messages on chat or just raise your voice and ask straight, and I'll try to answer all your questions and comments that you raise throughout the presentation. So first, if I briefly introduce Hellon, the agency I'm working at. So basically, we are a Finnish-based service design consultancy. We are about 10 years old. We were founded in 2009, and we are a little bit over 40 employees. Most of us come with the background of service design. We also have business designers and people with business background, data science professionals, social science and professional science experts as well. So we are quite multidisciplinary group of people. And we have offices in London and Helsinki. That's also the secret behind our name, Hellon. It comes from these two offices. Just a hint about the London office, we are quite constantly looking for new interns or employees and designers to join our team. So maybe you want to connect with the London office and check that out if you get interested about service design or developing customer experience. As briefly introduced, we are also, I'm very happy to say that we are also globally very recognized company. For instance, we have won the Global Service Design Award 5 times in a row and are the only company that has done so. Service design, the Global Service Design Award is given by the Service Design Network, and it's kind of the Olympics of service design that we have globally. And also other competitions we have been awarded quite nicely throughout the years. So I'm a fan of our company, and it seems that there are other fans as well that I'm very happy about. Here are some of the companies that we work with. So basically, we work both with the public and private sector organizations and with multiple industries. And kind of what we have recognized throughout the years and throughout the collaboration we have done with different companies, we have noticed that actually companies, despite the industry, they struggle with same kind of issues. And one of the core issues is this human behaviors, understanding customers, understanding how their customers may feel like, how they act like, and how to be relevant and bring value for them throughout their kind of interaction with the customers. We also collaborate with several universities. We educate in several universities and do also development projects together. As mentioned before, I myself lecture at the Aalto University. But yeah, globally with multiple universities, we do work, we lecture, we have people, employees at Hellon who have done some, have completed some service design, further service design research, and have this very academic background as a kind of employee profile. So basically, to synthesize what we do at Hellon, kind of the main mission is to create these unique and successful customer experiences in all the projects that we do. But we believe that that can be only achieved when we influence the organization's culture, for example, and people who work in that company. So designers themselves, they can't create this change and create these customer experiences by themselves, but we need to engage the employees. We need to design for the good employee experience, for example, and we need to also engage like the C-level top management of the company. So they have the ownership to the development and kind of grows into the organization that we collaborate with. So basically what we do, we call or we refer as human to human business. So it's designing for people, it's designing together with people, it's designing for the customers, but it's also designing for the employees of the organization. So the engagement is key here to actually create these success stories together. In a nutshell, to kind of synthesize what we do, you could kind of illustrate through these 3 key points. So basically our approach in all the projects that we do is design thinking. So we aim to do and develop things in a human-centric manner. We try to do new innovations and think novelly issues that we face. And the process of development is this iterative, familiar from the design background. Our aim is to develop these extensive, successful customer experiences. But what matters in customer experience is not only like rationality and numbers, but it's about understanding emotions, creating value for the customers, increasing the loyalty of customers, and then with, for example, data science, measuring that those increases and communicating them to the top management level of the client organization. And the methodology that we use, we refer service design. So we understand service design as this more holistic approach of the design, where we not only think about necessarily the service itself, but the kind of business around the service and how can we align that business so that it creates value for the end user, for the customer. And we do this through understanding customer journeys, developing touch points, iterative prototyping, and the key co-design and engagement. So then why does this customer experience design matter and why we have kind of choose to focus on this area of design? You could say that kind of design reflects the age of the era or the decade that we are designing at. And you could recognize that during the past decades, there have been different kind of issues emerging from the society. And nowadays we could refer that we are living the age of customer. So actually to keep up with the competition, creating the successful business, you need to understand customers' expectations, and answer those expectations, so you can create this unique value for them and build up the loyalty and recommenders among your customers. So if you think of the businesses which had the most successful stories of nowadays, you would come up with names like Apple, Netflix, YouTube, Airbnb. What connects them is the excellent customer experience that they can deliver for the customers. And the interesting question here for myself, at least, is what's coming next? Like if we are living this age of customer, in my opinion, I think we're going to stay there for a while. Like this is not going to vanish in a couple of years, but it's going to increase from here. But then like these, maybe we're kind of closing up the age of new normal or something, like where these more complex systemic issues emerge and designers are needed there to answer to those issues of the society in the coming 10 years. to kind of illustrate this in more concrete, they change in the value creation throughout the ages. You could explain it through this logic. So basically, if the organization thinks very product oriented or product oriented logic, they're understanding that, okay, there's a customer need, like for example, in this case, hanging art on your wall. And okay, we're gonna sell a screwdriver. So people can do it themselves. They can hang the art on the wall and that's it. Yeah, great, problem solved. What companies are shifting nowadays and what we can see current today is the change to the service logic. So actually, we don't need to produce screwdrivers for every single people in the society, but more actually what we could do is to solve the customer need and the core need. And it's not having a screwdriver, it's hanging the art on the wall. So offering that as a service actually answers to the customer need and can have the cost of the business lower in certain cases. And what we can see more and more is going deeper in the core needs of the customer. So it's not having, in this case, it's not having the hooks on the wall, but it's having the art on the wall. So recognizing the core, deep root needs and root causes for things that people do and answering to those, actually companies can detect these unserved needs of users and create new business opportunities and ideas and serve those. And this is, for example, what we can see nowadays, Amazon, for example, do. So today, you could claim that today we live in an age of experiences. Experiences matter in multiple level in everything that we do in our lives. Funny paradigm in here is that the companies that generate the best experiences that you can think of, like for example, like Airbnb, Netflix, Amazon, and so on, they actually, they invest millions and billions yearly to the customer experience. And that kind of creates the kind of the barrier for, or the kind of it's kind of, how would you say, like it's the limit that people are expecting that all the companies are providing for them. It's the point that everybody is referring when they're using another service. So for example, here in Finland, if I use, for example, governmental service, I don't necessarily say that, oh, this is a government service, so the experience is not good enough, or it's okay that they are doing this in their way. But like unconsciously, I'm more comparing that to the experience I had yesterday with Netflix. And I'm thinking like, why it doesn't make sense, or why is it so difficult to use, or why don't I understand this, when this government organization don't invest millions yearly to develop their customer experience. So basically, all the customers are comparing unconsciously experiences that the best companies do everything that they use in their daily lives. And this creates a new kind of setting for companies to keep up with the game, keep up, create the successful business in their industry. Also, there's studies explaining that and studying that majority of the companies think that they are customer-centric. And also majority of the companies, they think that they provide great customer experiences. But when you ask from the customers, 11% say that they had a great customer experience. So there's a huge gap between what companies think that they do, what kind of experiences they create, and what customers think. And service design and design approach can be a key methodology and approach for kind of reaching up and helping the companies to reach up this gap so they can actually create value in today's environment. So why does this customer experience gap exist? basically, you could explain it through these reference. So basically, how organizations are used to think. They are used to think in customer-focused way, and this means that they're first of all thinking their business, and they are thinking that, okay, we have our processes, we have our KPIs, we have our own structure and ways of working, and then customer is something that happens far away in the future, somewhere after we have delivered something, and then is the customer somewhere there. But now the mindset has shifted that actually what companies need to do is to think in customer-centric way. So you need to think first the customer and their everyday life, and how to be relevant in their daily life and create value for them. So you have to think like the customer. And this creates a lot of struggle for companies because, people are messy, like people have emotions. They are not like rational in every day, and there's variety of different kind of people. So how can we actually understand them and answer to those people's needs and then organize ourselves as the customers are? So to highlight this point, organizations are more used to think tangible certain things like cars or technology or mechanics, like the screwdrivers and screws and stuff that happen within the mechanics. But people, they're intangible and they're abstract and they're uncertain. Like it's difficult to understand their needs and feelings, and they might change. And what you need here is courage of using empathy. So you need empathy to understand how your customers feel like, or how the other people feel like, how is their life situation, and how could you make that better through your business and through your design solutions that you're creating. According to one study, 50% of customer experience is about emotions. And I would say in my case, it's maybe even a higher percentage. So it's a huge amount. It's a huge amount of the experience that's kind of this intangible and that affects what is the perception of the customers of your service or your business. And this is very tricky for organizations because emotions isn't something that you can kind of manage through numbers and through rationality and you can lead through kind of data. But it's more that you need these more soft skills. You need how to understand people, skills that designers have and design emphasizes that can actually help here to understand this 50% percentage and communicate that to the organizations in a beneficial way. So basically, what's the value of design in this context and this setting is the human centricity. So not to lead by as the business sees it, not to lead it through numbers and not only profit making, but kind of bringing the human to the central stage of everything that you do. And then whereas your company interacts with the customer through digital, social, or physical touch points or channels, designing those in a desirable and usable way. So it kind of creates this successful customer experience for the customers. So designers have the superpower, and you as young professionals and young designers, I really emphasize that use this opportunity and use these powers to help communicating, help giving this emphatic mindset for companies to actually understand users and create new solutions, identify new business opportunities in service dominant world and economy that we're living in. Any comments so far, questions? May I go to the case examples?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, please write down your thoughts and questions if any emerge. Okay, so next I'll illustrate these points through 3 case examples. First one is more about like a service development project, and it grows up towards more strategic, more systems thinking type of approach and solving the customer issues. So the first case is about Finavia, Helsinki-Vantaa's airport. So this main airport at Helsinki. And basically the main challenge in 2015 was to create the best transfer experience in North Europe through service design for this airport. And this case won a prize, Service Design Network's gold prize in 5 years ago when this was done. So first, I would like to point out who are the customers of Helsinki Airport. So basically, East Asian customers, people mainly who come from Japan, for example. A lot of transfer flights from Japan to other parts of Europe are done through Helsinki. So there's a lot of East Asian customers that we needed to keep in mind when thinking of how to create the best transfer experience for this target group at the Helsinki airport. And what we did here in the project, basically this Finavia airport, they needed a service design process and service design model, how to conduct this rapid prototyping whenever they get ideas, how to engage employees to raise up those ideas, test out the ideas, and then bring them all the way to the implementation. So we created this rapid prototyping model for them, and then also tools that help the employees to illustrate their ideas further. So for example, we created this test sheet that whenever they generate a new idea, they can test it out and then evaluate how is it working and describe it through key questions like describing details and evaluating their concept further. And we had a diverse design team here working within this case. There was a bunch of Hellon's professionals, but we collaborated here in this case with all the universities. So we had all the university students working with the Hellon professionals. And they conducted, for example, a huge amount of customer research when at the start of the project and basically interviewed customers at the airport, discussed with them how is the experience currently, what kind of new services or ideas could be developed to serve their needs even better. And through those customer research, we generated a bunch of new ideas. For example, yoga gates, so you could do yoga after having a long flight at the airport. You could take selfies from Helsinki, so you can remember your stay in Finland or your stay at or the short stay at the transfer place. Or there were concepts for the kids like follow the rabbit, so they also can engage and enjoy during the transfer experience. So here's one example of ideas created. So Santa Claus comes from Finland, so we wanted to bring up these kind of famous things that come from this country, and created these selfie walls where people can take pictures with the Finnish stuff and kind of recognize their stay in here. But what we recognized within this specific prototype was that people weren't necessarily excited when we had only the picture of Santa Claus. But so what we did, we decided that, okay, it needs to be more interactive. We cut a hole to Santa's face, so people actually had the selfie wall where they could be Santa Claus themselves and take the picture, and then it became a constant hit. So basically, this rapid prototyping is also changing the plans very quickly and learning from the testing iteratively and making new solutions when you learn that something won't work. Here is another example. So we tried out like traditional dances that were introduced at the airport for the travelers, and they could join this communal activity together. And there was like a bunch of ideas that we generated throughout the process, but basically all the new ideas were evaluated from these perspectives. So we evaluated the impact to the customer experience, how important that is, or how impactful that is, the sense of urgency, the size of investment, so how much effort and money does it take from Finavia to invest in this idea, and how aligned it is with their strategy. So it becomes something that supports their objectives as well, and their strategy as well. And here's a picture of the yoga gate that was also very successful among the customers, and kind of what was achieved within the project. Sorry, I need to click this a couple of times. Yeah, here. So basically we were able to measure impact to their business. So they had quite a large saving potential. They increased the transfer lifing with 3%, and they got some nice new media attention through the project that they created. And one of the kind of key quotes or feedbacks that we received from the Finavia client was that what we did here was that we stopped assuming and we start trying. So not to think about the ideas inside the company and within each other, but actually engaging customers and trying things out, and then learning if something works or doesn't work, and being brave with those ideas and not kind of hiding them inside of your company. Okay, next I would like to tell you a little bit about the Musgrave project. So maybe you're familiar with Musgrave. It's an Irish grocery store company, grocery store brand. And basically what was their problem when we started the collaboration with them was that they wanted to attract parents with young children, babies, so that they would shop at the baby aisles and they wouldn't need to go to the ongoing price competition with their competitors. So how to create unique customer experience for parents with young children. So what we did here, basically we started with the extensive customer research. So we conducted diary studies via mobile, where we studied the everyday life of young parents. We did customer interviews where we had a discussion with them for an hour about their kind of experiences and their needs for improving the Musgrave shopping experience. And we also mystery shopped. So we went to the stores and observed how are the customers acting, how are they shopping at the Musgrave currently, and conducted a desktop research. So what was done internationally to attract parents with young kids to shop at the baby aisles. And based on the research and on the study, we did a qualitative analysis with affinity diagram, affinity mapping exercise, and identified 40 opportunities. Following that, we held 3 workshops with the Musgrave client. So first workshop was about framing the problem. So what is the core issue here, and what should we actually improve to attract this target audience? Second workshop was about ideation, so generating new ideas, thinking what we could test out, what we could create for them to create new value. And then third, we held a prioritization workshop where with the stakeholders, we prioritized which ideas we want to test out in the live lab that we held further on the project. So we ended up with the one kind of overall concept for this customer target group and 10 ideas that we tested out during a live lab, so in-store testing kind of period where we prototype and tried out the ideas generated. So after holding the live lab, we continued with second customer interviews with the focus of validation. So asking further on about the created ideas, getting feedback for them, and finally the project ended up with the final workshop to synthesize final recommendations for Musgrave and what they should do and define the roadmap for implementing the concept further on. And the overall concept we created for Musgrave was this parents VIP aisle and parents VIP hour. So we kind of identified that the core problem here was that the parents felt stressed while shopping at the grocery store with the kids. And by reducing the parents' stress, the experience grew. So kind of targeting all the ideas for reducing the stress of young parents. And this kind of synthesized in the concept of parent VIP hour. So a time of day when the parents with kids who would come to Musgrave to shop, they would get a special treatment and special service. So their shopping experience could be relaxed and stress-free during the in-store experience. And for kind of realizing the parent VIP hour, we mapped out the customer journey. So what kind of service moments this journey has and what kind of ideas we could bring throughout the journey. So there's not one single solution that solves the stress, but it combines of multiple things and multiple ideas throughout the actual customer journey. And to illustrate some of the ideas created, for example, when the customers are coming to Musgrave to shop, we identified that probably they would need a more space for parking. And we had the idea of having a family parking space next to the front doors of the grocery store, and a person that could help the parents to get the strollers out and kind of guiding them to the store to help them with the first touch point with the service. And some of the ideas, they were recognized that they were great and implemented further on. Like, for example, this family parking space is now being fitted in all new branches. But then some of the ideas didn't prove to be so successful. Like, for example, this guidance person or this service personnel at the parking lot to guide the customers. So some of them were still kind of validated and left out from the implementation from this moment. And then when people entered the store, kind of second thing that we recognized was that if the kids were tired, if they felt hungry or low in energy, they started screaming, and that kind of messed up with the whole experience of the parents. So very tiny idea was to give fruits that would be kind of left over from the grocery store to the kids as a free kind of treatment. They actually could help to keep the kids occupied and not hungry and energized and happy through the shopping experience, and which also kind of resulted the parents to stay happy. So this tiny kind of thing actually is now implemented nationwide. So it has a massive influence to the overall experience of parents and the kids. A little bit similar idea was to give the kids an activity book. So they would have exercises, things that they could point out at the grocery store so they can keep engaged and active when their parents are doing their shopping. And also we tried out these new roles like baby advisor or trained extra staff that could help the parents, like give them extra guidance, tell about the products and give them information when the parents were shopping to kind of improve their experience. Kind of the feedback from the parents was that, well, actually this baby advisor wasn't so much acknowledged or noticed, or it was thought that it's the regular stuff. So it was a little bit tricky to then implement further on. What the parents found very kind of great improvement and successful was to have this sweet-free aisle next to the counters and checkout. So basically, we recognize that when parents are leaving the grocery store, there's usually an aisle full of candy and full of sweets. And at this point, when the kids are hungry, they start screaming, they want the chocolate and they want the sweets that they're presenting there. And that kind of causes an extra hassle at the checkout, whereas regular, it's already a hassle without the baby screaming. So we implemented these sweet-free aisles, so they would have healthy snacks that the kids wouldn't crave, or if they would crave, the parents wouldn't feel so bad of buying a box of carrots or a box of veggies for the kids as a snack. And another idea was to give, at the end of the experience, kids a good behavior sticker, like a reward from being calm and like staying as a good kid throughout the shopping with the parents. And at the end of the kind of shopping experience, we tried out a role of personal kind of like a helping hand, a personal who could load the bags and maybe carry them to the car and help the parents with exiting the store. And also we gave a free coupon for the parents to have a free coffee or tea that they could enjoy at their car, and kind of the experience of shopping continues to their car, so it doesn't end when they actually leave the store. So several ideas tested out. Some of them were more successful than the others, but basically what this parents VIP hour and VIP concept resulted was a very successful project for Musgrave. It kind of helped less the stress of parents in 50 stores. In 2018, this concept was implemented in 50 stores, and I would assume that nowadays even more. That year, it increased almost 5 million revenue for Musgrave from this increment. And finally, it kind of nudged the shift towards customer centricity within the employees. So engaging with the employees and making the project with them help them to kind of bring up this customer-centric mindset and starting to try new ideas and engaging with the customers more within their culture and ways of working. Okay, finally, I would like to illustrate a case for which was done for Nordic innovation, which is more, this case illustrates more how design can help co-imagining new sustainable futures and co-creating scenarios for example, in this case, for the Nordics and for the future years. So basically Nordic innovation, now I have to read this from the slides. So it's the Nordic Council of Ministers, and it's the official in-governmental body for cooperation in the Nordic region. It was very simply said. So it's this body in the Nordics that aims to enhance the kind of sustainable growth, and this more like ecosystem thinking, this collaboration between public, private, and between people, so that they can generate new ideas and innovation and kind of promote competitiveness in the Nordic economy and Nordic business. And when we started collaborating with Nordic Innovation, they were looking for a discussion starter. So a tool that kind of could engage different kind of stakeholders to the same discussion, to think of alternative ways, or think of alternative scenarios for the sustainable future of mobility. And when we first started to discuss about this case, they were looking for a report, so like a written document that would kind of evoke thoughts among the readers and kind of nudge this discussion further when reading the report. But what we started thinking was that, well, maybe a report is not the way to kind of start the discussion between people, but something more engaging. And what we ended up creating was this design game that we refer Nordic Urban Mobility 2050 Futures Game. So basically, we conducted a massive research of future studies and kind of different scenarios that were conducted internationally about the future of mobility. And we analyzed the different aspects, what kind of generates a future scenario. And we identified 4 kind of areas of society that needs to be thought of together to kind of generate a new scenario. And these areas were kind of, what are the values, the key values in the future? What's the kind of, what's the governmental overall look? So how is it governed? How is the environment built? So how do the societies or the cities, how do they look like? And how is the overall life of people? Like, are they very business driven, or is the sustainability that rules kind of all the people's values, or maybe it's more community centric? So we created these alternative for these 4 different categories and different options. And by kind of combining the options within these 4 different categories, you could create hundreds of different kind of base world scenarios for the future. And when the group of people, they create that kind of base world, they start to think of, well, in this future scenario, how is the mobility look like? Like, how would they organize their transportation? What is the energy system like? How is the infrastructure organized? And then going further on, they analyze how does it look for people? How is the everyday like for? What about if I think I'm an elderly in this society? Is it beneficial for me? What are the key challenges? So you need to think also in a human-centric way, how plausible and how feasible this future scenario is, and is this something that we should aim for, or should we create something different? So basically what this game does, it helps to kind of visualize and illustrate future, that's very abstract thing, for these experts, so they can kind of go imagine what is the future like, what should we do to go there, and what we should not do if we don't want to get in there, or so that we don't end up in somewhere else. And again, like, design kind of has these capabilities of thinking very alternative ways of the future, and kind of making these very abstract things visual and tangible. So it was quite interesting of creating this tool for the further discussion for these experts and stakeholders. So basically, after playing the session together, they kind of backcasted the created scenario on today and thought what kind of innovations, what kind of collaboration would need to be started among the Nordics, so we could actually kind of generate new stuff to get to this future scenario. And kind of what we recognize that were the kind of key advantages of the game were that it helped to think these very different alternative ways to think the future and create the new innovations. It also increased the synergies between the stakeholders. So you're not, when you're kind of engaging this game setting and this play setting, you're not an expert anymore, but you understand the game logics, that you have different kind of roles and you have to engage with the game, you have rules and you have to play among the rules to get to the end result. So it's a good way to kind of a little bit taking off the roles of people and the kind of top of mind mindset of people and thinking in helping them to think in very novel ways. Also help to concretize the actions of today and how they might impact on tomorrow. So kind of concretizing the abstractness of future and also help to analyze the created solutions from different perspectives and from different human perspectives and end user perspectives. And also the game kind of created this process that was very easy to repeat with different stakeholders for Nordic innovation. So you wouldn't necessarily need a facilitator for every time you would have this session or like very heavy session with these experts. But in 2 hours playing the game, you could get to very interesting and fantastic results. And okay, so I'm almost out of time, or there's a little less than 10 minutes for the Q&A and for the discussion. But basically, I hope I was able to illustrate my kind of personal development from starting from the industrial design and then nowadays focusing on this more strategic design and holistic service design. And I want to point out the kind of more open question, what's coming next and what are the new ages and approaches of design that are needed in today's and tomorrow's society. So I'm kind of claiming that we're facing an era where these more complex social wicked problems are emerging. And kind of we need to accelerate this larger change among the organizations and among the companies. And design has a key role in there. But I think as a designers, we need to also evolve and think how our expertise can benefit, for example, sustainable development or creating more equal societies or more democratic governments, or how can we design for these more sustainable transitions in the future, and also how we can use design in the more strategic level of the organizations and kind of prove the value of design through data and through science. So thank you very much from my behalf.
Amazing. Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Laura, for sharing your thoughts on the shift from product-oriented design and thinking towards service design and systems thinking, alongside some really interesting insights, like via the case studies that you shared and the methods that you implemented at Hellon to research, validate, and realize those case studies. There's questions coming in now, and as usual, guys, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and also if you put a note down if you wanted to go live and interact with Laura. So a question coming in from Navpreet. So yeah. In regards to your example of providing a service to hang up a picture instead of providing the need of a screwdriver, how would you convince the customer that they need this new service and approach?
Yeah, very interesting question. Well, I would think what comes kind of first of my mind is that, well, what companies are most interested of is the business, like how does it influence the business that they're making and how viable that is. And in many cases, you could kind of argue that kind of shifting towards more service-oriented logic, it's actually more often more feasible and more profitable for them to produce, and also keeping up with the game. So I think I would start from there. So illustrating the case examples, for example, how other companies have succeeded in here, how they have servicized their kind of offering, what kind of new ideas there are, and then arguing through that what's the kind of business value that companies might generate and create through this change.
Awesome.
But I would also maybe add that, of course, companies, they come with different maturity level. So some companies are more open for new innovation, kind of shaking things up at their company, but some maybe not. And as a designer, I think it's also very important to kind of recognize what's the maturity of the company and what are they most looking for. And if you're kind of trying to change everything at once, there might be like cultural resistance, or they don't want to really go there because like the company is not there already. So it's also customer centricity. You could understand it also understanding the your customers, so understanding the company that you're working for.
Awesome. And in terms of the cultural resistance that you're talking about, like if you're bringing something new, something that there's not a room or interest for, or the time's not right, what would Hellon do in terms of facing cultural resistance or resistance in general?
Good question as well. Well, of course, one thing is to engage with the employees. That always helps with the cultural resistance. So not kind of implementing or applying something from the top down and like coming as a designer and bringing like this, oh, this is the awesome stuff, I need to start doing this. That's usually a way also to get the cultural resistance. But when you engage people, that you kind of point out the problem, like this is what you're trying to achieve and how might we get there? And you kind of start designing with the people, like, well, tell me about how is your day-to-day work and how could we improve that? That actually, as designers, we're trying to support your career. We are trying to support your everyday work. We are not trying to design something for ourselves. And many times when customers, they understand that, oh, actually, I might succeed if my companies succeed, or if I bring this up and things go well, actually that can benefit my career, my working kind of daily working life. So I think there kind of when you're collaborating with the customer, you're understanding their perspective and helping kind of when you're able to illustrate how your approach may help them, then I think something interesting happens usually, and they become more open to their kind of novel ideas that the designers might bring.
Awesome. And Vladan, he's asking, what do you think sets Hellon apart to be such an accomplished and award-winning design agency?
Well, I would say that what kind of differentiates us from many service design agencies and many design agencies, for example, in Helsinki, and I think also in UK, is that we are more holistic. So often design agencies are focused in specific type of design, like for example, designing specific touch points, like digital applications, for example, or digital touch points. But what Hellon is doing is understand, kind of connecting design with the top management thinking and the kind of core business strategy that company is doing. And within that kind of scale, we kind of build the, we kind of prove the value of design and kind of get the engagement of employees for the design itself. And that kind of helps us to build multiple kind of design projects within the company. So not only working on the digital touch points or kind of with the tactical level of the companies, but working throughout and very holistically, very spreadly and widely with the companies. That's, I think, one key asset that Hellon has. Another thing I would say is that For instance, well, I think we are a group of people that come with a variety of background and passion for design. And many of the people, they have the academic background and the interest of kind of studying what's the next big wave of designing. And we are kind of constantly developing the developing the new offering and developing what's happening next in design. So for example, last year, we won the Global Service Design Network prize from a case that kind of combined design and AI. So we figured out how artificial intelligence can be complied with design and help designers to create these better experiences. And I think that's one key point, that we kind of try to stay ahead of the game and try to innovate new design approaches and create these successful case examples. And in competitions and awards, those are usually kind of appreciated and found very interesting.
Amazing. And Luigi's asking, when hiring interns or employees, what are the key attributes that you look for?
Well, of course, it depends on the role, but or was the question that when hiring designers?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. So when hiring designers, I think is, of course, like the expertise is one thing. Like, what's your track record, and like what kind of cases have you done? What's your kind of expertise that you can bring in the table? And you would kind of like to do at Hellon? What's your core interests? But other aspect is also kind of the how well you're fitting to the company. So we are, you could say that we almost have like a family-like mindset or kind of energy between the employees. And we're looking people who kind of are willing to join that and want to be part of that and want to hang out and have fun with the other employees in here. So yeah, I would maybe combine those two aspects. So how people, what the kind of expertise they have, it's of course a key, but then how they are as a person and how motivated they are learning new stuff if the track record isn't massive at this point of the career.
Brilliant. And then Andujar's asking, in terms of your background, obviously coming from industrial design, why did you choose to then specialize and transition into service design?
Yeah, good question that I'm actually quite often asked for. Well, during the bachelor's degree, I did an internship for an industrial design company, and it was very kind of, how would I say, heavy machine oriented company, and kind of driven by the engineering and like heavy mechanical stuff. And then I thought like, oh, well, yeah, this is interesting, but I'm actually more interested on developing the business of companies, and not only like the end final products and how they kind of look like. It wasn't my key core interest. And service design at that point was, at that point of time, was emerging in Finland, and kind of got interested in there, like what this area has to offer. And actually this could actually answer to my key interest better. So how to develop businesses, but and help businesses out, but also how to kind of understand people and the kind of psychology of people and how people behave and how they think. So I think like the service design industry more kind of matched with my interest and my passions in the design industry, and kind of directed me to this career path.
Brilliant. Really good question there, Andujar, because the next group of questions comes from William Bristow, an alumni of the product design, industrial designer program as well. And his questions, and he's working in service design now. So he has a few questions. I'll take them one at a time. For students who might be thinking to follow your footsteps into the world of service design, or similar fields, what are the big challenges for an agency like Hellon on a new project?
Oh, okay. Big, can you maybe clarify a bit? Big challenges. What do you mean by
he's kind of asked a second question that might
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
give some more details. So how might that differ from the challenges faced in-house? So for example, one of the things that
Okay.
stakeholder management always seems to be a common factor.
Yeah. Well, I think like overall, whereas you're working with the you're working in-house or you're working within the design agency, I would say that one of the kind of core skills that's emerging is for the designers to kind of illustrate the profitability and kind of connect design with the business activities that the companies are doing. And within the kind of consultancy perspective, it's of course an issue. How do you build that relationship that you can access to the top management, for example? How do you have close enough relationship that they trust you and they kind of take you behind the scenes and help you to kind of influence how their processes is like, or culture is like, or strategies are like. So those kind of roles, they more traditionally they're given to business people. So why to take designers in that discussion? And I think that's an kind of emerging issue for both in-house and in-house designers and design consultancies. How to kind of illustrate that and argue the value of design in a business language. And what does it take from a kind of young designer who's entering to this industry or would like to work, for example, in design agency? I think like one of the very key abilities are to, how would I say? Maybe more traditionally, designers tend to think like, oh, business is something very far away and we don't want to take part of that. Like we are doing the design stuff and that's awesome and business people should learn from us. But this kind of change in the kind of the business logic, you need to be closer to the organization and understand the core business. So what you could start kind of doing at the early age is to kind of also think or also maybe study a little bit the business logic and understand how companies function, and then kind of trying to build up the arguments, where should design be located in the organization and why, what are the benefits it can bring, and how could you convince people around you that you're working with about the value of design.
Brilliant. And the last question from William is, what are the best tips to prevent projects from failing?
Well, quite many coming in my mind, so I need to collect my thoughts a little bit. I would maybe say, well, of course, one thing is this kind of engaging with your customer. So whoever you're working with, kind of ensuring that you have a good personal connection, you have trust among you, and you understand what they are trying to achieve. So it's not so much about you anymore, but it's about them and helping them to succeed in their work. So that's, I think, one core thing. From my perspective, I would say also that be aware of the design brief and having clear design briefs. That's quite often kind of, well, quite, even nowadays, I kind of face very open design briefs where kind of it's not very decided what is wanted out of here. How can we make sure that we have succeeded in this project? What kind of impact do we want to make? Who are we designing for? Who is the target group or the target audience? So kind of challenge the brief from the early on, so that you will have a very clear design brief for your work. I think that's one key aspect for generating a successful design project, because then when you kind of continue, you select the methods, you do the design kind of contribution or the design development, you test it out, and then you kind of present like, ta-da, here is my amazing stuff that we did. You have to come back to the brief, like what was asked for, was the overall aim, and were you able to succeed in that one? If you're answering something totally different, make sure that you kind of you're aligned with the customer, that their expectations are matching with what you're bringing for them and bring to the table. So maybe like on top of mind, those would be the two core things. So engage with the customers and then have a clear brief and always agree what you're trying to achieve with your customer.
Awesome, amazing. And then the final question, where do customers assign the most value to?
Sorry, can you say
where do customers assign the most value?
I'm not sure if I kind of grasp the question. Can you explain it a bit more?
In terms of what criteria do they use to kind of compare the market, and where would they assign the value in the outcome?
So does it refer to the kind of buyer customer or the end user customer?
The end user.
End user. So what do they, like in a new service, for example, what do they find most valuable?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, of course, I think it depends on the case and it depends on the kind of thing that you're designing. Like if you're creating a healthcare service, for example, and then a banking service, or what would I say, like a retail service, of course, the value points are very different. Also, we need to recognize that there are different kind of customers. So, for example, if we're thinking of, for instance, Musgrave or large retail company, of course, there are customers who are more price sensitive, for example, and maybe customers who are more eco-centric, like on sustainability issues, or customers who value luxury and great customer experience. Of course, customer experience is something that's kind of uniting all the customers, that if you're able of creating that and kind of creating the, when designing the service, you're able to take into account the core customer profiles and their needs and designing for them. If you're able to cover that, you're kind of good and you're fine. And that kind of connects the customers. But this kind of comes to the point that, well, first of all, it really depends on the industry you're designing for. And it really depends on the target audience you're trying to attract. What is the core value for them? Like if you're thinking that you're designing for price sensitive people versus luxury oriented people, well, the needs are completely different. The value points are completely different. But yeah, coming back to the point that what's uniting the customers, and what I've noticed when working with different industries, I think there are some trends or some kind of signals what people value in general. It's like usability, it's friendliness of the service, of the staff, it's feeling connected, human touch, even though service would be digital. If you're able to communicate the human kind of interaction there, it's always a plus and good thing. So some points are also equally valuable for the end users.
Amazing. I'm just keeping an eye on the time there as well.
Yeah.
Laura, thanks a lot from all of us at Middlesex University as product design engineering, design engineering. Thanks for taking out the time to join us tonight. It's all the way from Helsinki, Finland. It's been a great lecture. Brilliant answers as well. You know, to the questions that the students and the participants have posed. So thanks a lot, and we look forward to hosting you again in the near future.
Great. Hey, thank you for having me, and it was great meeting you. And please connect with on social media and on internet, and let's keep in touch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.